Guys, welcome back. I forgot I had mic myself. Welcome back to Scaled Success Reptile Podcast, episode 45. Getting close to that 50 mark. So really looking forward to that. Probably gonna do something special for that. Now think about it. So tonight we have a frame shift, and there are a couple that is into the reptile world. They have a couple different species. The way I found them was through Hognose. And that's how I find most of my guests is somebody that has a hog nose, somebody's been talking to me about hog nose, and then it leads to other avenues. And a lot of times now I see a lot of more people that are have keeping different species getting into hog nose. So that's pretty cool to see. So guys, the last 2 weeks, what has been going on in our world? So this coming weekend, we do have a show, Jacksonville, Florida, at the Jacksonville Fairgrounds. So if you guys are in the, you're a viewer, you're in the area, make sure to come check it out, see what we have available. We have not too much available from 2024, but we do have some variety still. And if you're looking for any specific projects, we might have it, or send me a message and see if I'll bring it up with me. But yeah, we got that going on this weekend. Also, one of the newest things, it's breeding season and eggs are starting to drop. So had two clutches the last 2 days. So really excited about that. Some really cool pairings. And if you're part of our Patreon, you guys know the exact pairings and what we're expecting from those eggs. And once they're further in, we'll share with you guys as well. So before we bring on a guest, let's give a shout out to a couple of important organizations and our sponsors and partnerships. So first of all, we have USARK Florida. Today, there was actually a video meeting for non-native species that covers iguanas and tegus. Today, they were talking about how they're going to go forward with, currently they were talking about collecting live iguanas to resell them out of the state, or resell them to distributors, wholesalers that sell them out to the state, that are licensed to sell them out of the state. So that was interesting to see. They're basically taking some feedback on how they're going to proceed with that. And hopefully they do hear our feedback with that. I was just listening in, and there's a couple of the local Florida, other reptile keepers and breeders, and just concerned citizens. They're expressing their information. But if you don't have a membership USARK Florida, make sure to go get one right after the show. In the description below, there's one, the link to their website where you can get a membership, and they even have a free membership so you can get all the alerts what's going on here in Florida. And then we have USARK National, and it's basically the main chapter of USARK that covers the whole United States. And they make sure to look out for any legislations that will restrict us from keeping any specific reptiles and even some exotic animals. Sometimes the laws cross over between mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and many other more non-domestic animals that we may keep. Next, let's get to our Patreon. So we launched Patreon this year, slowly but steadily growing. We have a couple members there, and we are launching some exclusive content. The pairings of what we're keeping, they're gonna have some. The top tier get some really cool exclusives on first picks of clutches. They get information, any questions you guys have about breeding hognose, and then keeping Barons racers and Madagascar giant hognose. We're there to help out and give our knowledge to you guys as well. And one of the coolest things I think it is for the top tier Patreon membership, your yearly fees go towards credit of a Western hognose from us. So, you're getting a big benefit of being a member there. Next, we're going to get to our sponsorships. We have Sea Serpents. If you guys are looking for a PVC rack or incubator, make sure to message Chris and check out their website. Sea Serpent has the best customer service in the rack system business and quality here in South Florida. And then you will also see him at many major shows throughout the country, some NARBCs and a couple other shows in like PA. So if you guys go and check them out, make sure you guys say that Chloe's Reptile sent you over. Now we have Blake's Exotic Feeders. If you guys want to add some diversity to your feeders, you want something that's locally grown here in the U.S., as here also in South Florida, directly from the breeder, of these quails to your doorsteps, or if you're in South Florida, you can pick it up directly from his ranch. Message Blake at Blake Exotic Feeders or Blake's Animal Ranch and go get you some quail. He even has button quails now that are small enough to feed, what's it called? Like 20, about say about 30, 40 gram babies, all the way up to your breeder adult females. So it has a variety of sizes, different breeds of quails that'll be perfect for smaller species and colubrids. And also for any other bigger species, he has the extra large sizes with his monitors, crocs, any other big reptile species. Next, we have Husbandry Pro. Husbandry Pro is one of our tools that definitely keeps us our success rate high with breeding, keeping these animals, because it keeps track of everything we do, all the breedings, feedings, anything that has to do with a hatchling. All the records are kept there, and it's easy to just transfer to the new owners. That answers many, many questions that either a new owner, brand into reptiles can ask, or even an experienced owner about pairings, all that information. It's one of my favorite features to export detailed information for that exact animal. So make sure you guys go try it out with code Clover60. And I bet you if you try it, you won't look back. So again, as usual, any product, any system that we use, that we recommend here as a sponsor, we use it actively, and we have been using it for years now. And I really am proud to say that I have these sponsors and they are partners with us because they are locally small companies that are in the reptile industry, owned by reptile animal people. So thank you again for all the sponsors, and a quick shout out to a few of our Patreon members. We have Nico the Merce. Shout out to you. Thanks for joining the Patreon. We have Casey Golf Reptiles Creations. Thank you for joining the Patreon, always supporting us for a long time. And we have Harbins, Josh and Alicia. Thank you for joining. Been a long time staple here in the reptile community in hognose, ball pythons, corns. So really glad that you guys are part of the family there. And if you guys are looking to, get part of that shout outs, get some information from us, and get the benefits, make sure to go check the link down in the description below and join the Patreon. So let's say hi to a couple people before we bring on the guest. So we have Star Poo. It's Frameshift. Shout out Frameshift. Thank you for joining, everybody. Again, if you're watching and you're here, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. It helps out a lot. And if you have any comments, make sure to drop a comment down below or drop a super chat. If you have any questions about tonight's show, either for myself or Frameshift, and we'll keep on going. Dustin, always here supporting. Thank you for joining, buddy. Looking forward to seeing what you have cooking up this year. And now we have Nixon Reptiles is a previous guest of our podcast. Another breeder that's into ball pythons and other species that is now getting into hognose. And like to see the new passion for hognose coming up and seeing other species keepers merging into the hognose world. Now we're seeing how cool hognose is, right? So, guys, we got that going on. The show, we have some eggs dropping. Have a couple handful of females already looking what they're called in pre-lay shed. So we're just counting down days before that happens. And if you guys are looking for anything specific, message us, DM us on Instagram, or send us an email. Hoglicious, thanks for joining in. And without further ado, let's bring on the guest and get the show started.
So you'll be able to step behind me.
There we go. Welcome, Josh and Tiffany. How things going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Hey, good
Doing
evening.
good. Doing good. Thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for spending some time. As we were talking backstage, it's parents and the animal world, the regular jobs, all that stuff. It takes a toll, right? So I really appreciate you guys taking your time to come talk reptiles with me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Um, you know, as I was saying in the intro, I came through you guys' Instagram page through seeing Hognose and stuff. And your logo is a Hognose,
Mhm.
but you guys have other species, correct?
We do. We started with ball pythons,
Okay.
and at least from the breeding side, we got our first hognose around the same time. But we've definitely, as time has gone on, we've expanded the hognoses more than the ball pythons. So now I'd say we're pretty evenly split, at least in terms of numbers between hognoses, ball pythons, and then we've added, as you mentioned, a lot of diversity of different species that we work with now.
Cool. Cool. So, give us a quick rundown because like I said, I know you guys through social media. I don't think we've ever run into each other through a show, and we have. Maybe I don't remember. Where you guys located, and give us a quick rundown of how you guys started this whole frame shift.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're located outside of Atlanta. We're in one of the
Okay.
suburbs of Atlanta. So not far from Babu, some other breeders in the area.
Hmm.
Uh, in terms of like start, you want me to go way back to are we looking origin story
Yeah,
start?
yeah. Let's do origin.
Or-
You guys are new here, so
yeah.
let's go there and see
You
where we
starting?
go from there.
Yeah, sure. I can start with me because my history, I guess, is not as long as Tiffany's because she actually got
Okay,
me into it.
that's cool.
I did do reptiles growing up, so I'm from rural kind of south central Georgia.
Hmm.
So we did a lot of fishing growing up. So outdoors, of course. My family were not snake people, so I was allowed to like catch turtles, bring those home. So I kind of started with turtles. I would say is where
Hmm.
my love of reptiles. I always had appreciation for snakes, but wasn't allowed to kind of explore that appreciation. School and in
Yeah,
terms of getting busy with life. I kind of the reptile hobby side of things was unknown to me until really until I met Tiffany. So we met in grad school. She was actually studying herpetology, and
cool.
and then
Of the real thing, yeah.
so but we didn't start dating until I moved to Atlanta to pursue my doctorate. So I did my doctorate here in Atlanta as well, and so we started dating then. And she actually already had snakes in the basement, so that was the first time I met someone who was keeping snakes
Animals in the
Yeah.
basement.
at a decent scale. She introduced me to the show side of the hobby, so we started out going to the local Atlanta show. It was really the only local Atlanta show at that time, and so a lot of the people who we've come to know now were vendors, smaller
Mhm.
vendors at that show back then. And so I guess that was probably what 2013 that we
2015, probably.
2015-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometime in there, yeah, she introduced me to that show. We went to our first Daytona together. I think that
Your first
my
Daytona.
my first
Yeah.
Daytona that same year. Um, and so I think, at least in terms of the breeding side of the hobby, I've kind of ran with that aspect of it. I think, and then Tiffany can obviously speak for herself, but I think she'd be content to still have a lot of really cool pets and not be as into the project and the breeding stuff. She appreciates like the snakes for the snakes, whereas
Yeah.
I appreciate them the same, but I also like having that, project, that drive to look forward to keep, climbing towards the next really cool genetic
Yeah.
animal.
It keeps the excitement up, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up just north of Atlanta in an area called Roswell. But my family just we were, trudging through creeks and things like that barefoot, catching anything and everything we could. And so I had no fears in my family growing up about all the cool, crazy things that could be brought into the house or, you know, captured and played with and learned about. And, all we had back then was like encyclopedias and textbooks to like look it up and, remember it or show your friends
Yeah.
about it. So I just remember really just finding a lot of, excitement about reading about the animals that I would catch and things like that. So I think that's what kind of grew the love of science. And, fast forward to, getting multiple degrees in biology, where degrees were focused in herpetology and a lot of field work where I researched the gopher tortoises,
Cool.
and I think that was mostly undergrad. And we have a lot of Gophers polyphemus here in the southeast and the sandhill regions, and those are a really neat species. My grad school advisor is one of the big guys that focuses on the research of those animals. So it was really rewarding to learn about those. And then fast forward to him suckering me into graduate school, where he was like, "Oh, I can send you to different countries and different areas if you want to study sea turtles. And I was like, sure. And I started my graduate program with the leatherback sea turtle in Costa Rica and the loggerhead sea turtle here off the coast of Georgia and on a remote barrier island. Luckily we had power, but everything else we had nothing of. So that was really fun to get grad school with sea turtles. And, I focus a lot on endocrinology and maternal investment. So how do mom's eggs translate into her offspring? We know that sea turtles lay multiple clutches over the course of a nesting season. So what changes between her and what changes between the clutches that she lays, and what is she putting value-wise into her eggs? So that's really interesting because they don't feed during the the breeding season. So I studied a lot about that, took some hatchling samples, did some interesting culling and seeing how those all shaped up differently. What else did I do with the sea turtles? Anyway, it was great. I collaborated with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, so I got the real deal, and had a lot of good experiences catching good data for the state and as well as the species.
And then
But
you've also been aware of the hobby side of the
yeah, I've been going to Daytona since I was a baby, like way before I was legal to drink,
That's
all
cool.
that. I was the girl that even before 21 was like staying out till 5 a.m. going to Daytona strip clubs because that's when the auction offered strip club tickets at the Daytona auction. So it was wild. Like, I mean, we would have wild times. And so me bringing him into this picture, he was like, what? Okay, fine.
What am I
And then
getting
I
into?
introduced him to like what my usual Daytona looks like. And yeah, that turned into a lot of fun memories for him. But it's there's all the other regular reptile expos that we enjoy going to just for fun. But now that we can bend, it's also been really rewarding. But like he mentioned, I'm more into just species preservation or something that's a little more not popular. So I like to have things that are a little not as common just because that's kind of where my research background was. But I wish I could say I still do this field work, but that's not where the money was. So I rolled out of the field work as soon as I finished grad school and went into more hard science. So that's where we are now. Yep.
Yeah. So and you guys are both in like the biology field, medical field?
Do you want to start your
Yeah, so I'm a molecular microbiologist. So I basically I study bacteria that live on your skin, and so for my real career, focus on how products affect those bacteria and how that's related to skin health.
Can I tell them where that is?
What do you mean?
Like where you study things on what parts of
Oh,
it?
I don't think we want to get
that. Okay. All right. That's for like those Daytona nights and
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, his stuff is really neat.
Yeah. But yeah, we think a lot about skin health, and I study microbes based on DNA, RNA sequencing. So looking at the genes to determine what bacteria are there, looking at gene expression to determine what they're doing. So yeah, that's
but his goal is to make products for people safer and healthier by recommending scientific approaches to the people that make the products.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. Instead of just having a whole bunch of chemicals thrown together and having a nice bottle and stuff like that.
Or no scientific backing for it. He helps provide that. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of chemicals are there for a purpose, but it's which ones are
actually
least disruptive, or what are ways that we can overcome that disruption. So what are things we can do to make the situation better?
Interesting. Yeah. And then now, Tiffany, since you're like in more of the research part, what does your day look like?
So I started work for the federal government as soon as I got out of grad school. They sucked me right in, and I did some really neat work with mosquitoes and what else did I do? Bed nets, like the bed nets you sleep under that have chemical treatments on them to protect you from malaria.
It's sterile mosquito research, right?
Like large, genetically modified mosquitoes that would lay eggs, and the eggs wouldn't hatch because they were sterile. So that was a sterile insect technique that we developed that was very, very unique, that where they could go release them into larger areas or even outside and hopefully eradicate portions of malaria in certain small areas. But that it grew into more things, and I started working more with like the response side. So like how to support the agency with like, let's say there's an outbreak somewhere. How can I help, get people organized, get things
Mhm.
moving, whatever. So I just started using my lab background to start bridging more of like a project management background. And so for the past, I don't know, 10 years, I've been out of the lab and really focusing more on how to manage the people side of things, because there's a lot of different groups of people that can do a lot of different things, but they don't always
Mhm.
know how to talk. And so I help bring everybody together and make things a better place. So
That's cool. So
um,
yeah, so now you're doing more management and the processes of everything.
yeah,
That's cool.
managing all the public health programs that keep us safe. So
That's cool. That's really
yeah.
cool. I mean, you guys both have, very interesting backgrounds in just, out of the reptile world without, your company and stuff like that. So interesting. You guys probably have some, different points of views of everything that's going on with the reptile world, shed testing, all that stuff. Um,
Lots of perspective. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So and you guys said 2015 getting into like ball pythons and stuff like that, especially with Josh. Um, and so he's close to 10 years. Are we at 10-year mark yet?
Probably a little before for his collection to start. I would say
Hmm.
for breeding, whenever Google sends me memories, I would say you probably had your first clutch around then, right?
I think it was around 2016. I think was the
Okay.
first ball python clutch, and I mean, we started out small. We never had like a
Hmm.
time where we were like, we're gonna invest a bunch and get a bunch of animals and start to do this seriously. We've just kind of like Tiffany said, just kind of had fun. A lot of those Daytonas, we would go to the auctions and get silly and
Yeah.
pick up cool animals. And so that's kind of
Cool.
where it started was just having fun at those shows. But yeah, I think it was around 2015 first ball python. I think our first clutch was probably 2017 or so.
Okay.
It was probably around that same time we bought our first pair of hognoses, I think.
Well, I mean, I've always had hogs. I never really kept balls. I didn't find,
Hmm.
no offense, never really found much interest in them. But then hogs were what I would always find interesting. So I've been keeping them for a while. And then obviously knew a lot about reptile breeding based on my education.
Hmm.
And so, I knew how to put two things together, do temperature, sex determination if needed, if depending on the species and all that fun stuff. So I had the resources, he had the guts to do it, and whatever. He just started putting stuff together
Yeah.
and spending money to buy animals. So
That's right. That's how it starts.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever. I'm always like the sucker for, like I said, like the weird stuff that's, I don't know. Oh, it's supposed to be red, but really it's yellow, or it has a
Hmm.
kink tail or something. I'm always taking the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So
And then Tiffany, with you going to Daytona so early, was this like family trips or was it like you and some friends hanging out going
college
there?
friends, I
Okay.
would grab my underage brother and bring him with me. Yeah, yeah,
That's
it
cool.
was just a lot of road trip kind of thing
Yeah.
when I was a kid. But yeah, I remember getting my first T-shirt too, because I remember being like, "This, I've really made it!" Like really buying my
Yeah.
first T-shirt there, it was a really big deal. So, and that was again before internet. Like, how did I even find out that that was a thing?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did I know that like Daytona was a thing? Like, I have
For
no
sure.
idea.
Yeah. That
So
sense like you have to just fall into it, right?
yeah.
Same thing as like the reptile world, right? Like, it's interesting because Josh saying, come going to your place and seeing snakes for the first time, like actually somebody keeping snakes. Is interesting because who would have known, I wonder if
Yeah.
Josh would have gotten into reptiles and
I don't
keeping
know if
snakes
I should
if
date this girl. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I was so, it was so normal to me that it didn't come off weird, right? So like you
Mhm.
just kind of rolled with it.
But we did meet a lot like early on in those days. Like once she started taking me to those shows, I mean, we
Mhm.
met. Like I said, there were a lot of really good breeders where there weren't as many show options as there are now.
Mhm.
That we got to know a lot of really really good people that influence kind of
Well,
you
we
know
also had really, I think another thing to say that we haven't really talked about in our pre-game sessions was that we had a lot of really good mentors growing up in
yeah
terms of education wise. Like, so yes, we can talk about the show circuit and how we met folks that we, knew in the show and other breeders and things that we started getting along. But keep in mind, like that was more recent than even what we've been dealing with,
Yeah.
for a majority of our, young careers, is having, mentors and other colleagues that are, coming along school with us that, are wonderful influences on our passion and wonderful influences on us wanting to learn and grow and things like that. Because I mean, I tell you, like, to learn what we've learned from our advisors and other, other folks who do the research that we did or at least that I did growing up. You studied plants, so no one cared about those. But like, growing up younger years and having those people who were like, if we can do this, then this might show, this might show X, Y, and Z for the species or something like that. So you really get that extra motivation to kind of, put in become part of the community because they're so passionate about it as well. So having, the larger kind of like research community was also really nice coming into this, and I think helped drive the passion to want to do more.
That's cool. So ball pythons, Josh, was the ball pythons your species? Is that how you guys got into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of genetics, obviously, they're one of the most diverse
Yeah.
species out there. So I think just seeing how many different types they were, like my first ball python was a bumblebee ball python. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then every time I would see a new combo, and even now I still get that same feeling. I mean, I still feel that way about ball pythons genetically. They're still, to me, one of the coolest species out there. Now, if I stopped breeding and I said I'm not gonna breed snakes, I'm just gonna keep snakes for fun, they wouldn't be my choice for just keeping something that I, enjoy the behavior, that I like interacting with them and watching
Totally
them. Obviously,
understand.
but yeah, I mean, they have their place, right? I mean, a lot of the reptile industry is built on that genetic diversity, and I think a lot of the other species that we have now are a result of that, and people that kind of promoted this idea that you can pursue really cool genetics and make a business out of it, or make a profitable hobby. And so yeah, I mean, that's definitely where I started. And then I think we both are bad influences on each other in terms of we see cool stuff and we're like, yeah, we want to get that. And I will say, outside of the hognoses and ball pythons, it's not like we have a ton of any other species. Like it's like a 1.2 or some 2.3 groups of different cool animals that we just appreciate, that I will.
They call it like the Sunday special, like when you show up to an expo event, or maybe you're just there for actually attending the expo. It's always like that Sunday that you thought about it overnight, kind of thing, and you're like, okay, we'll go back and go get that, that 1.2 that we eyeballed the day before. The Sunday special. So the extra stuff that we know we don't need, or that tickled the fancy that weekend.
So what are those species? Give me a handful if you have.
Oh, so we have rough scale Sand Boas.
Okay.
Those are mine.
Got some really pretty rough scales. I've recently got into the black-headed. So I've had a black-headed python, just a single female, for a while. And I've kept Woma Pythons for a while as well. So I just really love that look, the head contrast with the stripes on the body. Recently added it
back in like 5 years and see if it does anything.
We've got a lot of 8 different Asian rat snake species. I've started collecting those, so we have some really
it's merely just a collection.
Some really cool lineages of mandarin rat snakes. We have blue beauty snakes, bamboo rat snakes, different types of bamboos. That was me. Let's say I'm looking at. We have other hognose species besides just plain. So we have giant Madagascar giants. We have parablonde hognoses. We keep tricolor hognoses.
He does really well with the tries.
Yeah.
He bought those for me for Christmas one year, and then it ended up being like 2 males or something, right?
That first pair, I think it was 2 males.
So disappointing. There goes my
Christmas. Had to restart again. Yeah.
But that's what he gifts me. He gives me animals, and
Hey, what better deal, right?
Who needs jewelry, right?
That's right.
You have milks. I mean,
we have milk snakes now. I've got different subspecies of Mexican king snakes. Dry Marcon have really captivated me. So I produced my first clutches of black-tailed Crebos this past season. I had 3 different clutches from 3 different females for those. So it's really cool to produce those.
I got into that because he got to see me catching in grad school, catching eastern indigos on the sandhills when I was finishing my research. So I remember one day I had a twofer, and I put, that was like still when Facebook was like the only way you could connect with people, and I posted that double catch, and it was a big day. I think that you saw a lot of that when I was growing up. So
and speaking of, I guess, snakes that I enjoy keeping, like the dry Marcon, their behavior, like the way they observe everything that's going on around them. like if I could keep just one species, it would probably be those, just because they're just
Yeah.
so cool, so aware, like
It's
they're
because they
watching
make your
everything.
adrenaline go.
And they give, yeah,
He's slightly afraid of them. So like, let's be honest, he likes it because he has to put them in a trash can when he cleans their cages and feel like
It
a
keeps him
real
on his
snake
toes,
person.
yeah.
It makes him feel like you really
feel like
he's
a real
handler,
real
you
snake
know?
keeper.
Like
Yeah.
that's why he likes the dries. So
Yeah. It's that
keeping
primitive
nuts.
like survival, right? Like feeling and stuff like that. It's cool. It's funny because today I was talking to my oldest daughter, and she was holding one of the Madagascar giant hognose, and it's in shed. And I thought, just be careful. The other one, the male was going to shed a week ago, and it bit my younger one. So I was like, just be careful. And I told us, like, these are slowly becoming one of my species I like to interact more with, and it's because of that. You can see them thinking, even at a young age, they're watching and stuff like that, because there are bigger species. So it's really cool to see that in larger species now.
Give them a puzzle, like a feeding puzzle or something. They love stuff like that. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah. Well, and she was mentioning that too. She was talking about how she was like, "Oh, can we train them, or can we see if they work with some puzzles or something like that, since they're smart?" I go, maybe you can try it out something and figure it out.
Hey, Amazon's having a sale right now. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go get one.
Yeah. So it's cool to start adding those extra species and stuff like that. And you guys talked about mentoring and stuff. Did you guys have a reptile like hobbyist mentor when you guys started, or was it trial by fire and whatever you knew, Tiffany?
I mean, I had a lot of experience like observing for many years before we really got into it, and I think I'm very cautious about, like, I guess I was really observant on like how we would brand ourselves, and not letting him just buy crap just to throw up on it. I don't know, like the displays and things like that. It just let's just watch and see what you like, and kind of thing, before we just jump in and buying things. But that still didn't help, because I swear we've been through like so many different brands of displays and tablecloths and signs and stuff, but whatever. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, I think we had time to observe and kind of figure out what we liked and what we didn't like. But things grow with the time too. Like things become popular with what you want to use in your toolkit to help with vending and to help with the shows. But I don't know, people wise, I think we just really made a community locally, and also some fun Florida friends as well. But local community, especially the ones that live within driving distance, and just becoming close with them and their own family as well, I think really was what kind of just sharing secrets, trade secrets, or just fun things after a show is always what brings you closer together too. And little adventures outside of the expo walls is what really I guess made it feel like it's real and growing for us.
Yeah, in terms of like a breeding plan type mentor, though, we really never had that, like, this is what you should be doing if you, because we never approached it with that mentality, right? We were just kind of
balls to the wall,
kind of going
I don't like it, do something different.
But certainly there were breeders early on at that local Atlanta show, like Tom Harbin on the Hognose side, for example, was someone that was very
much one of my that man. Oh,
but he was he was a very open guy that obviously made you want to be a part of the breeding hobby. Same thing as Tiffany mentioned. A lot of my friends now are ball python guys that I met early on that were very open, that kind of accepted us and treated us like family. So a lot of those guys are my closest friends now. And again, it wasn't so much about the breeding plan, but it was this community, family that enjoyed the same things that you did. So.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's where it starts, right? The really the love for the animal, the species you're working with, and then it evolves, like you said, to the morphs, the breeding, all that stuff. At least and you guys have longevity in this, because being in about 10 years of actually getting close to 10 years of breeding and all that stuff, where I've seen in the last 2 years, and we talked about it's a cycle, right? But like a lot of people are starting to get out. Now it's starting to hit the hognose hobby as well, where people are selling full collections as well. And I think maybe taking it slower in the beginning, how you guys did, and being more strategic on what you're bringing. All that stuff was important, because you could have been probably like, many other people that you probably, saw coming up at the same time you guys did. And, you talk about this day, it's like, I wonder what happened to that person, or,
Yeah.
With that being said, it's like, if you have a person at a show coming up to you and, actually, before I ask that question, frame shift, what does it mean? How did it start? And
Well, again, going back, I always want something unique, but
Yeah.
easy to remember.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the science theme and a lot of the genetic mutations we observe, and whether we're
In
talking
life.
about ball pythons,
Life,
hognoses,
yeah.
whatever. I mean, frame shift is a type of mutation that occurs and often has a effect on what you're able to observe visually on the phenotype of the animal. And so, yeah, we're just playing on that science, that genetic theme is where we came up with it.
That's cool. That's cool. And I'm gonna put up a post from your guys' Instagram,
Yeah.
your show setup. Really, really nice. I like the clean look. Love the colorful, different colored tablecloths. I think
You can just
adds-
yell. You're like, "Hey, go look for the tablecloth,"
yeah.
or whatever when you make the posts, and people
Mhm.
can't maybe see the banner behind another banner, so at least they
Mhm.
can see around the corner, and boom, there's a teal tablecloth.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that is
I
that my
did the same
you can
thing.
see my cool little copper card holder that I got him for
Yeah.
anniversary present.
Oh, right here, yeah.
Whatever year the copper is, that's what I got him.
That's
That
cool.
was very special. But that's probably like tablecloth style number 6 or something, knowing how
Mhm.
Josh is and always cycling through ideas.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're the same. Like, you're constantly evolving, changing things, adding new racks,
100%.
moving stuff
100%.
around, cleaning racks
Yeah.
out. So.
Yeah. And I think that's another probably, one of your secrets of longevity is evolving with the times, evolving with different practices, right? Like anything, you get stuck in the the past. It's easy, everything passes you by. But great show setup. I have the
Thank
same
you.
thing. I have bright lime green
Oh.
tablecloths. So, somebody said that, she goes, somebody sent me over here to look for the green tablecloths and I found you, right?
Yep.
So simple stuff like that stands out. And you guys have a good amount of animals and displays on the table, with having full-time job, being parents and stuff like that. What's the secret to keeping up with everything?
Just schedule and routine.
I
Like
wanted to hear his answer first. What do? You just don't sleep, right? Caffeine and no sleep. Yeah.
That's yeah. It's burning the candle at both
Candle
ends,
both.
right?
It's so terrible. I don't know how many ends my candle has. Probably too many, because I also have other hobbies outside of this hobby, and
Mhm.
on top of the job, the kids, social life, all that good stuff. The kids' social life now too. That's
Yeah.
even that.
Yeah.
All the things. It's just incredible that we keep up with it.
Yeah.
But
we're like we balance each other a lot, and I think that really helps as being a married couple doing this, but also just personality wise, and the ways that we can kind of give and take. It's never tit for tat, but it's never 100% even 50-50 with whatever we do to kind of give each
Mhm.
other breaks or whatever with all the things we have to do in life. But he's very patient and I'm very aware, and always trying to keep things organized. So I think it really helps balance what we want to do and keep things going with our other parts of life. So
yeah, and the active part of the snake work is, to me, it's good work. So a lot of my job is sitting in meetings, sitting at a lab
Mhm.
bench, sitting in front of a computer. So at the end of the day, it's nice to actually get up, move around, like use your hands, clean some poop, dump some tubs, do the
Yeah.
hands-on dirty work, moving around, rather than just go and sit and do nothing at the end of the day. So it's to me, it's a nice reprieve from sitting around, which is what a lot of my job is. So
That's cool. Yeah. No, and I get that, man. Fortunately now I'm doing this full time and stuff like that. But like before, when I had office job, coming home and going to the reptile room and checking stuff was definitely a disconnect from the world. Focusing on the animals. It was amazing. Even to this day, even doing it full time, it's still pretty amazing to be here
Yeah.
every day and being able to do this.
Yeah, now there's also a lot of ways to stay connected while you're doing it. I mean, there's lots of podcasts like we're doing now. There's Palm Street that's popped up, so I have entertainment that I can also turn on in the reptile room that keeps you connected to everything that's going on.
He'll
So
occasionally, if he's working from home, he'll also take meetings down here while he's, scooping poop and doing whatever.
That's great. Yeah.
It's a listening. If it's a listening.
Yeah, if it's a listening call, right? Yeah. We don't have great internet down here either. So
yeah. And then with your careers and all that stuff, because it seems like you guys probably have a busy career life. How does your reptile world come into it when people ask you, or like you meet a new coworker or something like that? Like, how does that come up? Because the world you guys, the career in with like Josh, you're into like skin stuff and skincare and stuff like that. Totally different from reptiles. How does that come up? Have conversations with that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it started a lot of lists making terms of all my coworkers aware of it. We do like icebreakers when we meet like new business segments or things like that. So they usually ask you, what's a fun fact? And we're like, we breed all these cool reptiles. And usually the immediate response is, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's weird because like, I guess his group, his folks, I don't know what it is. They're just so much more accepting of that, and then also like even just work-life balance and things like that for his group is so much more flexible and things. And so I think more people tend to be really laid back and open to things with his line of work. But then with me, it's I don't know, it's like do or die. And so when you tell them something like this, or or they might see like like a snake earring or something like that, or on my phone there might be something. And, you start that, yes, we keep these animals or something. And then, of course, usually the question that follows is like, you kind of hinted at more. So they'll ask you like, how many or something like that. And I'll just hand them like our Instagram. Like I'll open my phone and just hand them my phone and be like, you figure it out. Tell me what you think. Or, I'll open Morph Market and I'll just hand them that. And then they'll see like a price tag and they're like, what do you do with this money or whatever? Like I'm like, it just goes back into this, or I
buy more
spend it on
reptiles.
something. So yeah. So I think for people from like the outside world, it's always like the money and the quantity that really hits them hard. And I tend to meet a lot of different folks with my line of work than really Josh has the opportunity to. So his people are really comfortable. My holy crap moments happen very frequently.
Yeah.
And then they're always like, and you do this too, and you do that, like in terms of you do, dog training, you do kids, you have a normal, you look normal. That's the other thing. They're like looking for like tattoos or, the typical stereotypical thing that they see, or they're like, and you wear dresses, just they're very like perplexed. Like I look normal, and then I do all these weird things. So
but Tiffany also likes to get reactions from people though.
Oh my God.
She's the kind that will go and say, "Hey, look at this crazy stuff that I do."
Only whatever. I mean, they start a conversation or, hint at something.
No, I just mean you're more open. Like to me, it's probably like that formal setting where I'm doing some kind of icebreaker where people find out something like that about me. Whereas
she gets clammy about
Tiffany's
it.
more open. She's more open in general. So.
Yeah.
He tries to keep me around just for the conversation.
and it, I don't know, but I don't know the full personality of you guys, but like, maybe also Tiffany, you've been around it for so long that you are more comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, I think I remember forewarning Josh about how shows should be and what to expect. Because I also enjoyed it so much. I love the culture, and there are pockets of different ways of the culture of the industry as well. Not even just at shows, but just the industry in general. I hate some parts of it, but most of it is really fun. So
yeah, that's what I've told a lot of people is like 99% of the people I've met in the reptile world are great people. Also I think you attract what you put out too. So if you have good energy, good people, you attract your type of people. So that's another thing with that. And of course, like any hobby, any community is gonna have the bads and goods. And there's nothing that's perfect in this world. I think concentrate on the goods, right?
Yep. It's what makes the world go around.
For sure. And now with like breeding projects and stuff like that, let's get the ball pythons out of the way first.
I'm just gonna go check on the kids. Yeah.
So you said like Bumblebee was one of the first animals that really caught your attention, right?
It was literally like something local that he could go get.
Yeah.
So he was like yearning for something local.
Mm.
Not a, it wasn't even at a show. It was just
Yeah, he didn't want to wait for the show. It's like I want
it's
something
like
now.
you want that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
I think and it's crazy to say because like as a keeper and as a seller of animals and you want your animals to be taken care of, but I feel like a lot of purchases of animals in general are impulse, are something's like, so it visually attracts you. And then at that moment, all right, I can figure it out how to get this animal into my house, like either, if it's a dog, cat, or whatever, reptile, I need, what do I need? I can go get it right now, right?
So you're saying there's a formula for that for me to get like more dogs and more cats? Because I need to know it.
I think it's just the impulse part of it. It's just, and that's how it's happened with majority of the animals that, other than the breeding hognose now, but majority of the animals, how we started, is just like, all right, it's cool, let's grab it.
Yeah, I think that's the first phase for a lot of people, and then you get through the impulse phase, and then you start. At least if you stick with it long enough, you start formulating a plan, a breeding plan, a species.
That's like, I just like dark stuff. I'm like, you ain't gonna go far, bro, with just dark stuff. I'm like, okay, like dark is like you're just gonna black yourself out pretty soon. Like, where are you going with this?
So where has the ball python like morphs evolved to now? Today time, like what is your project centered around?
You have some like unique stuff that not many have.
So
on that.
So for a long time I kind of followed the mainstream projects, and now I think as I've started to expand the Hognose's other stuff more, I've really pared back to a few projects that I don't think a lot of people are working yet or haven't worked fully. So I've kept some of those. So like
called time management.
Yeah. So I've kept a lot of those projects back. Of course, you to have demand, you have to mix some of the mainstream projects back into that stuff. But like Super Mackenzie is a gene that's not, or Mackenzie. So there's a super version of that's a really striped, bright animal. So I saw the first Super Mackenzie in a Daytona. I guess it was probably 2018, 2019 or so. It caught my eye. So I've been kind of slowly keeping that stuff and working that. It kind of fell off for a while, and then Zebra, which was supposed to be kind of a new recessive, was brought onto the market. So that people started talking about Mackenzie again. But it's one of those genes that I've always liked, and so I still have it, and working towards putting it into some of the more mainstream projects as well to keep hopefully keep the demand for those animals high in the future. But I've definitely kind of pared back again, focused on those kind of off the grid type projects as I've expanded. So yeah, we have Pixel, which is like a really extreme granity looking ball python gene. So yeah, a few different things that we're still working with.
And at what point was the turn point of, now I'm going to start working some projects that I really like instead of following the stream down the,
I think it was having the Hognoses to come to a scale to where I felt like that was the majority of what I'm doing now, and so it's I can go back to just, I feel like having fun on the ball python side rather than there was a phase kind of in there where I had breeding plans and was chasing a lot of projects, and just kind of got burnt out on that side of things. So especially once I had all these other cool animals and started pairing things back, I think that's where it turned, and when the Hognoses became, a bigger part of our collection than the ball pythons, I would say.
That's right.
So, and I have the Instagram open, and I was just scrolling and not really familiar with I couldn't identify many ball python morphs other than Xantic, right?
But there's so many. Even tomorrow there'll be something new that I can't.
But I clicked on the picture, and as you're speaking, Super Mackenzie, and it's what stood out to me. Yeah. Right. So it's a really nice looking animal. So I see why you like it.
Is that one?
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, even not knowing what you're talking about, that's what caught my eye. Off of your Instagram feed. So it's cool to see. And this, what's going on here? This is really
lots
cool.
of attention is what's going on there. Hi, Candy.
Yeah, so lots of genes in that animal, but it's another pattern disruptor that at least what drew me to that animal. So it has a hurricane gene in there, which has a or Trick Hurricane. They're actually the same gene, but it has that gene in it. It really blows out the pattern, makes it look jagged, and then there's a super form that makes that even crazier looking.
You have it listed as Cypress Snot-Nosed Yellow Lily Clown.
That's a different animal than what he's got there.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at one from October. Okay, never mind.
So now with scaling back the ball pythons and moving more into hognose, how many ball python clutches and stuff like that are you getting a year currently?
I'm probably down to like 20 or 30 or so is what I would expect to do this year. They're actually going really early, so I've already gotten four clutches from the ball pythons. So they seem normally July to October is when I tend to hatch the majority of the ball pythons. But yeah, probably 20 to 30 this year.
Okay. And what's your top tier, like what you're expecting from that stuff? What's what you're looking forward to see out of those eggs?
Yeah, some new Super McKenzie combos. Looking forward to a lot of that. Pixel Clown stuff. I'll have some different combos for that this year. So there's not many of those that have been produced. So it'll be cool to see what that does. So those are probably the two projects that I'm looking forward to seeing animals from the most.
Okay. And is there, with the ball python, is there a lot of people working those projects, or it's a handful?
Those two specifically, it's just a handful. Yeah, not a lot of people at all yet.
Yeah. So that's cool. Now with ball pythons and shows and all that stuff, we talk about ball pythons being majority of what we see at reptile shows, on Morph Market, online, all that stuff. How do you guys manage with that, and doing sales and stuff like that at shows with the ball pythons?
Like in terms of how they do compared to the other animal?
Yeah.
It really varies by show a lot. Like sometimes I'm always surprised at show at what sales. Like some shows will sell a lot of ball pythons and no hog noses. Sometimes we'll sell a ton of hog noses and zero ball pythons. So it's it kind of fluctuates. At the moment, we tend to have a lot more table space dedicated to the hog noses.
Okay.
So we certainly sell more volume of those now than we do the ball pythons, but it definitely varies by shows. We've taken Sand Boas to shows and done really well with Sand Boas. So I think
that's a really neat story though too. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. I like having a variety on the table because then you catch people that say, "Oh, I haven't seen that before." You meet, you meet different people. You don't know what that animal is that's going to catch somebody and get them into the hobby.
Lately, it's been like the dries on the table because he had his first 2 clutches or so, I think, this season of the dries, and everyone's been making pit stops just to start there.
That's
even
cool.
Folks who are interested in the hognoses. So.
Yeah, but once you get kind of outside of the ball python morph craze, and even some of the hog noses, like animals are much more affordable. There's a lot of really cool snake species that make great pets. So you never know what that animal is going to be that catches somebody's
or what their
kind of
purpose
attention
of wanting an animal, right? So like you might have your Sunday tire kickers that are just there to see if they can get a deal, or you might have like your family wants their first pet, all the way to someone who's looking to plug something perfect into a long-term project. It all just depends on if you have it, and then we just do it for what we like. And so if they like it too, great,
Yeah. No, I think variety is so important in keeping it going, especially if you're doing shows or you're actually actively selling animals and stuff. Now, like price range wise, are you guys have a wide price range of, first time keepers and then some investment stuff?
Yeah, we definitely do in both species. Yeah, ball pythons and the hog noses. I think hog noses especially are nice in that regard, that they're not like normal ball pythons are almost like it's almost frowned upon. You're selling a normal, right?
Yeah.
A lot of ball python keepers are like, oh, you're selling normal. With hog noses, people still like love and get excited and appreciate those animals, and so I really. That's one of the reasons I've expanded and really been drawn to the hog noses. There's still that like appreciation. There's a lot of first time keepers. There's not as much of the genetics chasing. I don't feel that.
Yeah, and
I don't
the
feel
normal stuff. Even people are like, oh well, this one looks different than this one. And they love like those early buyers are like they're so excited about just like those little cute variations that they can hone in on. Especially since a lot of them are younger folks, like that are attracted to this because it was popular on TikTok or something.
Yeah.
But then for the higher end things, I
Yeah.
guess now you can segue into that. But
Yeah, and I do like to set up pairings to where we're gonna have. I mean, obviously we're trying to hit
Just
certain
for him.
combos to hold back
Mhm.
for
hold back for
ourselves.
you, yeah.
But I do like doing het pairings so that you have a range of animals from that project that you can share with people, because people are at all different stages of the hobby. So it's nice to develop those
I mean,
relationships.
we were there at one point too for a
Oh,
couple
yeah,
things.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, our first pair of hognoses were just a albino and a het albino that I think we got from Brent at a Daytona back in the day, obviously. And those were the Daytona days where you showed up on Saturday morning, and as soon as the doors opened, all the hognose tables were gone.
gone.
Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like if you didn't set up with the other, like even if you didn't vend, you just had to get in on Friday with like the vendors, and
Yeah.
now they offer the special VIP crap, but
Yeah.
now you got to get there Thursday. But yeah, that was back when we'd be like, hey, let's get in on Friday, see what we can find.
So we can find, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I've seen there's a different, I say 3 different types of breeders and like show, like reptile, that people that go to shows and set up. And it's either, you have people that are solely concentrated on higher end. They want to sell, those only project animals. Then you have the people that, I just want to sell pet animals. And you guys are in the middle, right? You got
That's
a
fair.
little bit of
Yeah.
variance.
Yeah.
When did you guys start that way, or as it evolved, you guys, okay, no, we need how to have variance?
I mean, we started with pretty little investment. I mean, when we
Mhm.
started buying animals, I was a grad student not making much money, and then
Mhm.
Tiffany was the one with the real job. So we were sweating buying, $150, $200
Yeah.
animals early on. And so I think that just set the collection up that way, right? We never chose, I'm going to invest, X amount of dollars to buy a bunch of really
Mhm.
high-end animals.
Yeah, I'm like the voice of reason again, where it's like, does this really plug into a project that you need, or what's your 5-year plan for this girl? Is she really going to be worth something? Of course, you can't predict the freaking market, right? But like, are you really going to like how this works in your stuff, a handful of years from now? And again, it just all depends on what he's feeling that week, that month, that year, project wise.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't, we weren't going out and buying a bunch of double visuals or triple visual animals. Like the collection has just slowly grown. And so a lot of our breeders now are stuff that we've hit those double visuals or certain combos and held those back. I mean, we've just been doing it for a while. So now we do have a good proportion of higher end animals just because we've held so many of those really high end animals that we've hit back. So I mean, we
Or
definitely
unique too. I mean,
or
like,
unique
just really
animals.
unique, like something that has like a little bit of variability that we want to prove out.
Yeah.
Especially with hot line bred stuff or whatever, just wanting to see what we can keep back and try it again. I think you even featured one animal, or if we're not ready to talk about hognoses, we don't have to, but
We can
on
segue,
like
yeah.
on the thumbnail, you had that
Yeah.
one like weird girl that we held back, just because of weird variability, just to see what happened, and yeah, just stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And I think sometimes now it's harder to move like double heads, triple head stuff, even the hognose stuff. But when you're starting off, I think it's important to have a little bit of double head stuff. First of all, you're not shoveling out a lot of cash unless, hey, if you have it to spend it and hey, whatever, But
Yeah.
if you want to be smart and maybe get more for what you have, double head, and now we're seeing triple head, quad head stuff in hognose. I would tell people, don't be afraid to gamble on that sometimes, even especially if they're 100%ers, down the line, and then you'll get variance too from those clutches. You won't get all the same thing if you do visual to visuals.
Yeah, and if you approach it with the mindset of I'm going to be doing this for a while because I really enjoy it, like there's no, I would argue, especially with the hog noses where we don't have as many genes to kind of go after. Like you're not in a rush. Like make really really nice animals. Keep the nicest ones back for yourself. And to me, it's more about refining the animals that you're keeping, and working towards the best version of those combos that you can.
Because that's, I mean, again, we're just doing this because we enjoy it. That's it's not about the volume. It's not about, it's not what's, bringing home the paycheck per se. So it just makes it a little bit more like you can rest easier, keeping the things that he wants and things that I want. and arguing about what the next plan is. So
and that's got to be interesting, right? Like breeding plan season comes around and like, all right, let's sit down and figure out what we're going to breed, right? It's got to be an interesting time in your household. Anything other you want to bring up with your ball python project and stuff like that before we move on a little bit on other species?
Yeah, let's chat about other stuff.
Yeah. And before we get into the meat and potatoes, the hognose, I did just come across a video of the Germicons.
The babies.
Yeah.
That's another
They
species
look to me, they look ugly in that video because we have really terrible lighting.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous. Like
they are. They're cool.
They look wild and they're very pretty. That is a really poor lighting. It looks like just a pile of turds, but like I promise they're really, really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And they do attract a lot of discussion.
Yeah, and I think that's another species that's starting to, be on the rise, and more people are being aware of and seeing, okay, it's a cool species to keep, right? I feel like in general, we're seeing a surge in more colubrid keepers now, where people are, I don't know if they're getting burnt out on ball pythons or just finding something new, cooler to see.
You can tell Tiffany's burnt out.
Yeah. And with that, do you see your ball python collection maybe getting smaller as the years progress, or you think you're at a good?
I think
this answer.
Yeah. it varies on what day. Depends on what day you ask.
What day? Like when we found out that we were pregnant with our third child, he was like, "Oh, I'm done. Let's get rid of the balls." I'm like, "Okay." And then like fast forward to like a little bit more like, I don't know, day-to-day activities to get him back in check, and he's like, "I'm just gonna keep my favorites."
I mean, it's hard. I mean, in reality, like size-wise, I think we're at where we're going to be long term, and so how we
with these, yes,
with all animals,
I would let him buy, another hognose rack or something like that. But for balls, no, he's at capacity. Yeah,
But yeah, I think it's just about how do I structure the collection long term going forward. I think numbers wise, in terms of animals that I'm breeding, I'm happy with how many hognoses we're breeding. I'm happy with how many ball pythons. I think it'll just be kind of refining that and continuing at the numbers I'm at. So
yeah. And one last question about pythons. So Super Mackenzie's one of your top tier, morphs that you like in ball pythons. What's at the bottom of the list?
I think so, even though it was one of my first spider over the years, just because it's
you don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything left. You have first still, right?
So I have my original bumblebee, ball python female, but spiders are associated with neurological issues in ball pythons. So
you don't breed any. I mean, you don't have any.
He's standing at the bottom. I mean, it's just
just like anything that you don't want to keep or something you wouldn't need to bring into your collection anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten aside from that girl, we filtered out the spider just because there's not a lot of demand for it, because now that everything is so connected on the internet, like even though it's not necessarily true, like I've never had any issues with my spider ball pythons over the years. There's not a demand for them because the internet has convinced so many people that they're not good animals to keep.
And it's interesting, and this is like talking to friends. I've never noticed it because I don't go on Morph Market and search for ball pythons. But the label, I guess, neurological, or there's a label with like spider. I think there is. So
it's a
tag on Morph Market.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess people.
That must be a new feature. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a new feature. So I guess that's another thing too. I guess with that gene, if it's within it, it might deter people just because of that tag, and maybe the animal doesn't have a neurological problem. But
I wonder if there are other tags on that site for other issues or
other
concerns for folks. Yeah, some.
There are for like hidden gene Woma, champagne. There's lots of genes that are associated with wobbles and stuff. So
that's right.
They're all labeled,
but they're tagging them in Morph Market.
They're all they all have a label on it and kind of a disclaimer under the ad.
Good for them. Okay.
Yeah. So that's another interesting part of where it's evolving, where even the unbeknownst buyer can easily it gives a starting conversation. Hey, I see this disclaimer. hopefully they're going and asking, not just passing over the animal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's interesting to see. Now, what about like any of the newer like hot genes right now? Anything that you like? I'm gonna stay away from that.
I mean, there's a lot of genes that I really appreciate how they look. It's just like
Yeah.
project potential. Those genes tend to be so overwhelming. Like Monsoon is one of the big ball python
Mm-hmm.
projects now that's really disruptive to the pattern, kind of like a pinstripe type animal. So in terms of just project longevity and what am I going to do with that animal in the future, some of those genes are just so overwhelming that it doesn't mean there's not potential there. It's just I don't see the potential for the investment that those animals demand at the moment.
Or
So,
again, that you don't. I mean, that's something that you don't always like to see in your eyes. So like
Yeah.
if you don't like it, you're not going to do
Yeah.
it. You know.
yeah, and I like
Correct.
whether we're talking about a ball python, a Woma, or a hognose. Like I like a lot of contrast in animals, so I like to see
Mm-hmm. So,
variation
so
and
she
so on.
said you like darker morphs. Is that still?
I do still appreciate them. I
Yeah.
think I have diversified
Yeah.
in my taste. We don't.
Yeah.
Uh,
So where's your opinion on sunset?
We have them.
You have them?
Oh wait, ball python. Who
so-
cares about ball python? We're just talking about hot- like whatever.
I like sunsets as babies. I mean, I've
Okay.
seen a lot of sunset combos as
Yeah.
sub-adults and adults, and they're definitely not my favorite. But I appreciate them
Mhm.
as babies. I think they're really
As
beautiful.
babies.
And I think I've seen some recent combos, like I've seen some of the ultra male sunset combos. So there are some genes that I think it can do well with, but
Yeah,
so
for sure.
but
Yeah. And that was a surprising thing when I first started, like, making more ball python friends and breeders and stuff like that. That like, oh, the snake looks nice now, but it's gonna darken out. It's gonna dull out as it gets older. And being the hognose, where I'm just like, really, why? Like,
yeah.
it was a
We
surprising
have
thing too.
stuff
It's
that
like
gets brighter over on
better.
this side of
Yeah.
town. Why
Yeah.
don't you come on over? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get fatter and cuter. So yeah, it's like, come on, let's do it.
So I'm gonna put you guys on the hot seat real quick
So
until we switch. Now we're gonna switch over to hognose. But if you have a buyer that's at your table and you have hognose and ball pythons, which way are you pushing them?
it's a read. You got to read the person.
Mm,
Like what?
No, I mean I agree.
You
It's
sucked in like you're about to.
no, I was just gonna add to. I mean, it is
You
definitely.
gotta like look at them and be like, are you gonna suck at this or this worse? So like especially because if they don't know what they want yet, then you're really gonna have to help, like you said, guide
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you kind of like, what's your family like? How young are they? Whatever. Like, are you
Mhm.
gonna put a freaking heat lamp on it? Whatever. You think about all the things that could. I'm the negative person, so I'm always like, what's gonna go wrong? Or like, what do you read about these people that could really
Yeah.
make them succeed better based on what their lifestyle is like? So we ask them a bunch of questions about their preferences and like what they do. Like, would you rather sit in front of the TV with something just sitting in your pocket, or would you
Mhm.
rather play like a hamster with an animal? Kind of like moving your hands around a lot more.
Mhm.
How would you like to see the animal in the cage? We just ask them a few questions, about what they're willing to do and what they're willing to work with when they bring the animal home. And usually, again, like there's fair price ranges for them to make those decisions on whichever way they want to go.
Yeah.
And we're really lucky too. Like the folks that do come to us most of the time have done a lot of their research ahead of time about maybe a species or two, but maybe they're still on the fence. And so they have a couple questions to help make the decisions that they want. But yeah, I mean, it's just whatever
No.
their preferences are, more like about their lifestyle. Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't want some younger children to hold a hognose and squeeze it to death because it's so wiggly.
Mhm. Mhm.
No.
Yeah. No, and it shows the experience with taking your time to actually learn what these people need and want. Because sometimes the want can be different from the actual need, right? Trying to figure out what people is like, either young child, or if you want to have something that's more chill, like a ball python sits in your hand and don't have to actively like really hold it. I always tell people it's like other people that have ball pythons, or even just as a pet, it's like, oh, I have a ball python, I know how to hold the hog nose. I go, it's totally different. I go, first, they're not going to wrap around you for the most part, so it's easy going to fall out of your hand, so you need to actively hold it. and when they hold, they're like, okay, this is totally different from holding a ball python.
Yeah.
You know?
Hold it over the table, please. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Like,
Yeah.
wash your hands and hold it over the table.
Yeah.
Or just don't look at it at all. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's always just nice to have the people who know exactly what they want because they're, you know, A+ breeders, and they're like, oh, I've been waiting for this gene, and we're like, thank God, because it's just, you know, sometimes it's just easier that way. But for the pet people who've done that research, we commend that. But we're so willing to spend minutes and time with folks, and we have repeat customers very frequently that want to get additional animals with us because they love the time that we get to catch up with them, and they bring their friends, they bring their family. You know, just seeing a familiar face is fun to them, and we enjoy interacting with them on social media to, like, when they tag us on you know, how things are doing, or so and so, you know, had its first shed, or so and so's eating this size, you know, whatever now. So it's always fun to catch up with them. Josh really enjoys all the direct messages.
You know,
yeah,
but
that's
so they're like, what are you doing? Why are you taking so long? You know, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just talking to so and so. I'm like, okay. Remember that one from that show? I'm like, I think so. Yeah.
That's another good reason.
It's interesting to see, like, the updates and see where people have gone, especially when it's that person you have to, like, feed all the information. It's like, hopefully they took the information. Hopefully they took the information, put it into play, and it's good to see, like, the feedback. Oh, it's doing great. It's eating well. It's growing well and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that they can see the amount of energy that we put and, you know, into preparing our animals and the information that we provide to them, that they feel like, you know, there's that baseline trust of the quality of the animal on top of, like, you know, what we offer to them to get them started. They feel like they can go home and have, you know, a really well started animal, and feel successful because of the way they got to know us and the way that they see these animals on our table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another good reason to really have that spectrum of kind of price range on your table. And a lot of those people who buy some of those kind of pet animals just get into the hobby. You make a relationship with them, and then you get to see those people grow in the hobby. And 3 or 4 years later, they're still buying animals from you, and they're getting nicer and nicer animals. And it's really fun to see that growth that happens.
And they're vending a table down the road from you.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen if you only have higher end animals on the table. So
That's very true. That's very true. We, like you guys said earlier, we all started somewhere, right? Most people start with, you know, a less expensive pet and see how it goes, and then from there, you know, jump down the rabbit hole and get to where we're at, right?
Once that first egg pips, it's they're hooked then.
Yeah, for sure. So moving into Hognose now, you know, Tiffany, you've kept Hognose for a long time, just as pets and stuff like that. And you guys are saying your first breeding pairs were albinos?
Yeah, just very simple. It was a het female and an albino male, and whatever. I mean,
we still got a really big girl there from the first clutch. Yeah, first clutch we ever made from that pair. So,
but I never, like, my collection of hogs weren't animals that I bred at a personal level. Most of my breeding, it was just a couple lizard things, and mostly just, again, for research. So
okay. And then, so the Hognose breeding, when did it start? It's around the same time as the ball pythons?
Not long after, if not around
long
the same
after.
time.
Okay,
so.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm guessing some of the ball pythons, when you guys started, was probably easier to find, maybe like yearlings or adults, where the Hognose was easy. It was really difficult to find anything that had size on them, right?
Well, not only size, but just, I mean, I feel like even though this didn't feel like very long ago, like, there weren't very many attainable options, and morph market wasn't super big on them either, right? From when you first started, like, it's like there weren't as many options available easily, right?
Definitely not back then. I mean, morph market started in 2017. I think that was the first.
Something like that,
the founding year. So we were.
So it's like you couldn't shop easily, you know, and local shows around here never really had much option for growth. So we were just patient with it.
Yeah. So after the albinos, what was the second gene that you guys added?
Oh, that's a good question. Toffee stuff. We bought like toffee condas early on. I know there was like a really green toffee conda that Tiffany and I both saw in
That was
Daytona.
my medal.
Tiffany picked it out, but yeah, it was really really green, vibrant green toffee conda. So that was one of the, I guess, second genes that we bought and produced animals from.
Yeah.
Lavender was another gene we kind of both agreed on. Still one of my favorite genes to work with. So that's
Carefully, but yes. Yeah.
probably the third, I guess, probably the third edition. Sable at first, of course, Tiffany's like, oh, it's just a dark snake. So early on, kind of against that, but yeah, we got sable stuff and made sunbursts
Well, he had
fairly early.
theories. Yeah, you had theories behind the sable stuff, so I was willing to let you play out a theory or two to see what you could prove out. So
yeah. So it's interesting because, you know, seeing the sable gene early, you guys seeing the early in the beginning stages, and what were your theories, and did they prove out?
we want, again, him being so obsessed with dark. I'm like,
Yeah,
find the darkest stuff you can
yeah,
find, and let's see what we can make with it, because he had the goals in mind of what to do with them.
Yeah, and I still have goals with sable. Like, I guess what captured me was the variability in the sable. Same way with lab. Like, you get really red sables, you get almost a greenish hue sables, you get really dark sables. So
What can we do with that to see what it does when we're trying to put them with the projects? So
yeah, no, for sure. And I think I think sable was, I mean, it's a cornerstone of any collection right now. If you're actively breeding and want to produce some higher end, or even just some cool, even just a sable by itself, it's a very good looking animal. It's put the variance in it. And then lavender, that's another gene that I tell people is like, if you're gonna plan to breed, it's a must have in the collection eventually.
Within the same clutch, it's crazy how much how many different shades of purple to burgundy to pale. Like, it's just really fun.
Pale nothing.
Really fun to hatch a bunch of lavender.
What a waste of time with a couple of these. But they make great pets, and they're like, oh, it sounds purple, like, we'll take it. Like, go for it.
What and Tiffany, you mentioned it with breeding lavenders. What is your guys' take on visual to hets?
He's really cautious. And again, Josh is such a great planner. I think we sometimes know a little too much or read a little too much but also to make logical decisions based on our own judgment. We're not taking, maybe what a culture shock might be pushing out that really scares people without really putting in some really hard thought to it. Again, we're at least I think very black and white. I rely heavily on the like a science thought to like really make a decision, and he's a little bit more lenient in terms of thinking about how to approach it so that he can still meet his goal, where I'm like, just don't ever do this. He's maybe like, well, let me read a little bit, take some insight on different people's perspectives before he makes decisions. But yeah, I guess go ahead and
I do avoid it. Like, I don't pair lavender to lavender early on in the breeding. Before things were as connected, we did do a lavender to lavender pairing, and I got viable babies from the pairing. But the fertility rate was definitely lower than in other clutches.
Okay.
So I had that kind of one sample point for myself. But in hearing,
I can't remember. Did you double clutch that one? I can't.
She did, but the fertility was low in both clutches. But I mean, talking to more people who've done it a lot longer than me, that seems to be the theme. The recurring thing is that fertility tends to be lower. I think with any gene, another good argument for hets is that you're keeping more diversity in the gene pool, by avoiding that visual to visual, at least over and over again, unless you're getting distantly related animals that the lineage of that animal. So
no, and that's you guys have a good frame point of like breeding visual to visual and then heads to visual. You guys you've done both, so it's interesting to see that point of view where I've only done heads to visuals, and just because of what I've heard, and then the breeder in me sometimes like, what if I do a visual to visual? I'm that person that I like to test things too. Right. And it's like, let me see what happens. Is the fertility going to be low? Have my personal experience of it to be able to actually speak on it. With the visual stuff, because I'll see people recent. I think the last 2 years, more people are popping up that are taking the chance and doing visual. And I've seen both ends. It's like, good set of clutch, good babies. I've heard others, we have
It
a
could just be
handful of
that
kinks
girl
and stuff
too.
like that.
Like you never know. It just could be her. It could be her off year. It could be her early year. You know, but we still know enough about other people's experiences to make that judgment
Yeah, to
and
steer it a
feel
different
good
way.
about what we want. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and I think that's another important part where like somebody's getting into hognose, maybe has the idea of breeding, and later on it's like, okay, you give them this information and see what they do later on as they grow and stuff. What is your? Do you guys have two different favorite hognose Morse, or you have a consensus? What is it?
I know mine. I don't know about Tiffany. Do you have a favorite?
Not anymore. I mean, I don't know. With like our project or just in general? No.
It's
know.
it's hard the decision to make.
It is hard.
I mean, I think it's maybe not a project. It's just more of like maybe that one animal that came from one of our projects, because I'm like, this one's the different one that's gonna like really stand out. Because like he was giving that example of that green toffee male, he threw some green stuff here and there, and we are like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So like he was my favorite for like a little bit in time, because just how different his results were. But what about you?
Yeah, I like really high quality lemon ghost Woma is probably
my
my favorite at the moment. Just something about that kind of neon
Probably
yellow.
high quality, because that could be arbitrary for anybody.
Yeah, just the high yellow highlighter background, background color.
You're obsessed with the way the shapes are too.
The patterning, yes, the patterning. Some of the Womas, like I've seen some of the really striped Womas, which are really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
no, and it's interesting because I got my first lemon ghost maybe like not even a month ago, a female, and it went through the first shed here, and I can already see the variability of the yellows, like especially in like daylight, good lighting. You can see the neons coming through, so it's cool to see that. That's another project, like another line breeding or stuff like that I held off, just because like, what am I going to eventually do? How many animals I need to have it to actually produce this lineage, right?
Right.
So, and I think that's another good point to bring up. It's line breeding things and actually producing that high quality of animal that you first got, instead of just diluting it down the line after the multiple breedings and stuff like that.
I generally won't let him keep things unless there's sort of an agreement on how cool it looks, because otherwise we'd be bursting at the seams. Because of a possibly cool animal. Yeah,
it's so hard, to like try to figure out what you want to keep sometimes, even especially same clutches and stuff like that.
Well, luckily with so many meals you got to get in hognose, you get plenty of time to watch them get a little bigger.
Yes. Yeah. That's one thing I my first year I regret selling some stuff too quick.
Yeah.
And this year I held back. I marked a lot of stuff holdbacks, and waited to like to the beginning of this year, and decided, okay, I'm gonna keep this rather than this one, and then put it on Morph Market or bring it to the shows. I think that's definitely the better approach.
We get size on the animals nicer for whoever takes it too. So
you have to deal with less
drama,
less message responses.
That's very true. Yeah,
a hognose in this 40-gallon terrarium. Why is it not?
Why can't it eat?
Why is it not eating?
Yeah, and then you get to see it develop, because like we were talking about, some stuff just gets better as it ages too. So that one shed might make a big difference.
We've had some that, I mean, literally like, okay, if he does this, then yes, like once he does, a couple more meals or another shed or whatever it might be. Like I remember that one, like, what was it, a superconda something, and I remember you were like, it takes my breath away, I can't, and then it just kept getting better and better. Remember that male?
Yeah, it was a super axanthic het snow. It's really
like, we don't
really nice contrast, almost like super Arctic level contrast.
But like, you just super crazy bright, like piercing your eyes, and we're like, I guess we'll keep it, whatever.
And you know what, those animals, if you enjoy them and it eventually comes down the line, okay, I don't need to keep it for breeding purposes, stuff like that, it's easy to move because it's a cool looking animal, right? It has size. So and then one thing I think too, and I think you guys are in a good position because, like you were saying earlier, this doesn't keep the lights on for you guys, right? This is not. It's still very much a profitable hobby for you guys, having fun with it. So I think we're running into that part of the hognose where we're trying to add so many genes to one thing. And one question I always have is like, when is it too much? It's interesting to where we're getting that point where now we're starting to see, quad visuals and, how many more genes we're going to add to animal.
I mean, I think you brought it up earlier though, is like, we never want to compromise the animal's health and integrity. So like, that's first and foremost. So like, why
Correct.
risk any of it? So that's foundation. Like that, there's no question for that. And then moving on, for the rest of the fun stuff about when's it too much.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when the 2 gene combo looks better than the 4 gene, then why add another gene? Why not just make like
you'll have somebody walk up and be like, "Do you have this plus this plus this plus?" And you're like, "But this looks better." So what?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're trying to make a fast project out of something or whatever, but I mean, they also got to remember their odds when they start putting things together. So
like a quad. Yeah, that's the odds there are so crazy. Luckily, in hognose we do get generally more eggs, compared to like ball python and stuff like that. So you have better odds, but still the odds once you get to like quad, triple recessive stuff, it's a lot. The odds are out there. And like I'm gonna show you guys this female I kept from 2023 that it's an albino, right? Nothing out of this world, like recessive wise, but it was a cool animal.
Some cool blushing on there.
Yeah, some cool blushing, some good coloring. And some people might sometimes say, why keep just an albino conda? Right? What is it genetically gonna do? But to me, it was a cool animal to keep.
I mean, we would do it too. I mean, like literally, like there's no shame, and still, you're never too big for your own shoes, So,
yeah. So I think, I think keeping that passion of what really striked your, the beginning is important at some points where it's just like, if it's an albino or if it's a normal that has some cool, patterns, some weird looking something, keep it, you never know.
Snow was another one of our like early on projects. So we got like, several visual snow females in the racks, but this season I made some snows that have like a solid dorsal stripe down the back of the snow, so clearly visible. And I held some of those back because I'm just like,
you tickled them.
It's cool.
That's cool.
Can I make a snow with an even bigger stripe down the back?
Right.
Or even
we do that sometimes with the tries. Like, for the try stuff, I'm like, well, so and so has like hardly any white, or so and so has hardly any black. We had this one wild looking female, I think, that we had that was like kind of a hypo look to it. So, any of that kind of weird, I mean, I could have 1,000 of those things if I, because they're so variable and they only have a couple eggs every time they lay. But those are really fun because they're super different, all of them.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the mandarin?
Our mandarins?
I have those like the South American cross with the other South American species crossed with the tricolor hognose.
Yes.
What am I thinking of? What's wrong with me? What other I'm thinking mandarin rat snake.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Sorry. This is a hybrid between tricolor hognoses and I think Dorbaginii or some other species name.
So it's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid. Yeah.
They're really cool. They're
really cool. Just that they're hybrids, right?
But then I look at him. I'm like, what the hell would you do with it? Like sometimes.
Look at what would I do with anything? I look at the cool snakes.
Whatever. I like to make sure there's like a little return on the amounts that you feed, but it doesn't have to be much. So
yeah. No, I get it. Eventually, because it gets expensive. It really does.
Don't get me wrong. We do have stuff just to look at it by of course, but we can't
do every single with the quantities. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
God forbid the kids start asking for animals. Well, they just come down here, but still, like if they start asking for stuff that means nothing to us,
one day,
like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, it'll get there because my youngest, she is 9, and she likes Sand Boas, so we have Sand Boas now.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope she likes getting bit in the face. Yeah, okay.
So, that's one of those things. Like we go to shows, and she's like, "Let's go look at the Sand Boas." And honestly, it's not in my
That's her
wheelhouse. The
thing.
first thing, yeah, that's her
Yeah,
thing.
it's her thing.
You
I
know,
know. I trust me. I mean, I was
it's
in
gonna
that
get
phase
there.
for a little while too with the Sand
Yeah.
Boas. God, he hated me. He couldn't. He would like not even tell me that he would put one of my animals on the table, even though it was one that like he even bought for me. He would
Yeah.
just still sell it right under my
funny.
nose. But we had a really unique story with the Sand Boas that we could talk about for 2 seconds because it's actually really weird. So while he was getting his doctorate at Georgia Tech, the physics department reached out to him and they're like, "Hey, we heard you are crazy and you have a shit ton of snakes. So here, we're done with this experiment. Do you want these animals?" And we signed some paperwork and made it all formal, legal, whatever, because it was a research animal. And Georgia Tech offered these 3 adult females that were used in like a locomotion study.
Yeah.
And turns out some of them were even like het anery. So that was like a really cool bonus. But that was the way we like. It's almost like you offered to take it, and then it turned into my project. So that was
that was early on too. But yeah, we ventured.
It was
That's how we started dabbling.
someone
Sand
gifted
Boas.
you an animal and it meant something, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, where it's like it had no value to us, but it was neat to have these like research Sand Boas that like helped people. We were like, this is cool. And then he let me get a couple males, and it turned out to be a disaster for him. Like I remember, like God, like our first litter, you were like,
I mean, they dropped so many babies. It was like, oh,
it was like a nightmare for Josh. Like, when did this stop? Like,
yeah. And was that your first like live bearing species?
Yeah.
The Candoa didn't do anything, right? Yeah.
I have not. I keep Solomon Island ground boas too, but I have not reproduced those. I've bought litters and worked with litters at the Candoa.
Yeah.
I think
so that's not going to be another interesting view, right? Like going from egg-laying species to coming in, pulling a tub and full of babies.
I think we were like fresh out of like being at the pool all day doing pool things, and so we like come downstairs and we're like, what's all this?
With the eggs,
not ready to like focus on that right now. Like take a couple of sips of water and focus.
With the eggs, you have a date. Like you can have your tubs all set up and ready. You know how many babies are potentially going to come. With the Sand Boas, like you can tell they're gravid.
You were like, I feel like they're black and white.
But I feel like you sense they're gravid. They're gravid forever, and then you just come in one day and there's 30 babies in the tub.
Yeah, you're stupid Sand Boas. I can't tell what's what. And blah blah blah. I hate your Sand Boas. Let me just sell them. And you just sell them off. Like
so their Sand Boas still there, or you guys moved on?
Well, I got my rough scales now, so that's
okay.
But he
got rid of some Kenyans as well.
But you got rid of my big girls.
Yeah, I got rid of like the normalish stuff that we had early on. But
the OG locomotion study girls are gone, unfortunately. But we would tell the story when we sold them. And, like whenever
they're cool. That's a cool story. Yeah.
And they all went to good pet homes. But yeah, we have some a couple of Kenyan projects. We have the rough scales that I know at least one female's gravid, so this should be our first season producing the. So she's gravid. It should be our first. Hopefully, it should be our first season producing those. So.
That's cool.
Sorry,
That's
we can go back to Hognose. I just figured.
Talking
about that weird, like, if your daughter is into that, and I can like quickly pepper that story in because it's pretty amusing. So I just remember him coming home and being like, "Well, they're gonna give us these snakes." Like what?
So. But and that's another interesting part, really being into the reptile world and having buddy friends and all that stuff. It's going to friends' houses or meeting friends at longtime friends, seeing them at reptile expos, and like coming home with more stuff than you expected, right?
Nope.
That's another like wild thing about
Sunday
like,
surprises.
Yeah. And my wife, I'll come home and with a deli cup, she's like, where did this animal come from? I go, don't even ask. It's like it just got dropped off. But yeah. And so with the hognose, seeing the genetics start to develop over the years, going from albino, toffee, lavender. Do you guys think we still have a lot more potential for discovering more stuff? What do you guys think?
I think new genes. I mean, the rate of new genes is definitely low. I mean, there's chocolate's a newer gene. There's a skull face, which sounds like it has issues. Maybe came
Mhm.
from a lavender
Yeah.
Mhm.
pairing, but I see the hognoses more as you have time to kind of refine what you're
Yeah.
working on. So like I have the
Yeah.
combos that I really love, like the coral stuff.
Yeah.
Toffee lavenders to me are a really beautiful combo. So I've added Arctic and Conda Sable into
Mhm.
that. So at least for us in terms of the future, I'm not. I guess thinking about what new gene can I add. It's more of like we talked about, like those cool animals that pop up, keeping those back.
Mhm.
Really refining those double visual, triple visual combos that we're making to see how how pretty we can make them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And then where like with the hognose, the line breeding stuff is so big.
yeah.
I think that adds another layer to the breeding process of it, and years down the line too, right? Like the line breeding stuff, I was talking about, like the lemon ghost stuff. It's not a one breeding season project. It's like
Right.
many breeding season projects
Yeah.
to see where it's gone. Seeing it in Sable is so cool. um you know and just waiting to see what else other people are working with and adding it to different genetics. Hopefully over the years we can see more stuff come.
Yeah.
um is
Yeah, or
there
even better versions, right?
yeah.
Even better versions
Yep.
of stuff that we already have grown to love. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like as people get out of the breeding scene, or they're getting older and stuff like that, it's like taking over that lineage and maybe seeing what you could do different as well, right? All that stuff is different. With Now with the hognose projects, what are you guys specifically like breeding? Is there a handful of genes,
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean
bit of everything?
to me yeah, I've got a little bit of everything, but the
Hmm.
permafrost project is really cool to me.
Hmm.
So I've got some animals growing up for that project. We'll produce our first storm clouds this year. So
Okay,
storm
cool.
cloud conda, that's really it'd be nice to see some of those come out of eggs. I
Yeah,
think those are really beautiful combos.
yeah.
So that's a couple of the projects that I'm looking, I guess, forward to. And then
Hmm.
talking about the line bred traits. So I've started crossing some of our Raging Red animals into our Lemon Ghost stuff this season. So it'll be neat to see how I've seen some really nice yellow background red animals produce. It'll be cool to
Hmm.
see how those come out.
and you've got some really nice bred stuff to hopefully help push it,
Yeah.
to see what you get.
That's cool. Yeah. And then the storm cloud stuff. It's it's interesting because like you can, if you have to go spend it and stuff, you can go buy, right, a cool
Yeah.
storm cloud and stuff like that. But like seeing those babies pop up of something you've bred,
Yeah.
and seeing that surprise of exactly what it looks like coming out of eggs, seeing it develop, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Especially
You
when you're
know,
selecting what you think is, maybe better than what you've seen, somewhere
mhm,
else, or that, you've worked hard to get so and so, mom and dad up to where they need to go.
mhm,
It's just
mhm,
more rewarding too, on top of
mhm,
seeing the eggs pip.
yeah. And then with the breeding process and stuff, what is your guys' like process of brumation? Anything do you guys do different or pretty general?
So refined. So
So
refined.
normally week of Thanksgiving, I start kind of cooling things
You're
down.
off work, you don't have
Yeah.
to do anything.
So
Everyone's falling asleep easy.
Yeah.
so I get the brumation chamber fired up. Usually that week, I will put the majority of our girls down,
I
keep them
found
down.
really nice brumation boxes this year,
Yeah,
like
those worked
really,
out
really
nice.
nice narrow stuff that's like
Mhm.
easy to stack.
Yeah.
I was very proud of that find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
them.
if you share it in case somebody's looking for something that's
Yeah.
where did you
Target,
find it?
yeah,
Target?
I can send it to him,
Yeah.
to send to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was really, really helpful this year
Yeah.
to fill up the chamber that he's got.
Yeah, because I
Nice.
did try. We're getting to a point I either have to add another brumation chamber or stagger stuff, and
Because
it's
he was
right.
just using 6-quart tubs. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is stupid. Like they don't need the space when they're sleeping. Like
Mhm.
let's knock this out and then
Yeah.
make it more efficient.
Mhm.
But I did try the staggered brumation last. So we've had that same schedule of kind of Thanksgiving week to end of February, and then we
Mhm.
start warming them up, start pairing them after a couple weeks. That's our typical schedule. So I did the bulk of our girls that way last year, but I had 9 first year girls that I decided to try to brewmate later to get a
Mhm.
little bit bigger. And only about half of those girls went, whereas the other girls who I brewmated on schedule, pretty much all those went, which is my typical experience with that schedule that I'm keeping. So I don't know if it was just them being first year, so many of those girls that I staggered, or maybe I didn't do it long enough when I did the staggering. Not sure,
You're
but
probably getting anxious to get everything started too. Well, we'll never know.
but at least for now, I think I'll stick to my schedule because it works for me in terms of
Easy to
being able to
remember.
predict the ovulations, know that I'm going to have high fertility success, and so I'll. And
We
it's
also
all
know when we can't go on vacation.
Yeah.
You know, like
condense everything into
Yeah.
one season, one period of the year.
Mhm.
So
I remember one year our first Hognose clutch was coming out while we were in Mexico. And my mom was staying here with the dogs before kids. And my mom's like FaceTiming. And again, she's fearless. She's the one that taught me just to like, grab stuff by the back of the neck, whatever. And she's like, the setting up of, babies is foreign to her. But
Mhm.
in terms of being fearful, she's not. So it was really cute to get like a FaceTime while we're like sitting on the beach. Her
Of
just
her
being like,
collecting the eggs.
and again, we kind of talked her through like this clutch could hatch while we're gone, but it was
Yeah.
one of those like it's hard to be away when your season's about to really start popping off. So it
Yeah.
was funny.
And that's an interesting fact of like, topic like with us doing this is you do have to plan travel around your animals, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the quantities and eggs and breeding.
And we also keep mammals, so like it's just so
Mhm.
much planning just to leave the house for even a
Mhm.
weekend,
Yeah, for sure. And with the I was gonna ask something I forgot.
I'm sorry.
No, don't worry, no worries. We're talking about what do you use for brumation? Do you have a fridge? Do
Oh.
you guys cool down your
You
room?
want to
How
tell
does
them
that
what
work?
it is?
yeah, so it's a big beverage cooler that we have
Okay.
now.
Okay.
And
a
then
dog food one too, didn't you get a dog food one?
no, this was like a premium Lavella.
Oh yeah.
Like
Okay.
it's a big beverage cooler.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
do a cocoa coir sand mix to keep it kind of humid in the boxes when they're in there. Like Tiffany said, this year we switched to kind of narrower, at least
Mhm.
height wise boxes so that we could stack a little better. And it
Yeah.
seemed to work out
I
really
feel like why wouldn't you want to feel more secure, when you're brewmating also,
Yeah.
whether it's a hide in a 6 quart or whether it's, something that's a little bit more narrow, and you feel more compacted and comforted.
Yeah. And I think we use the same ones. It's like the Target brand one or something like that, right? Like
isn't it purple somewhere on it? It's purple.
yeah.
It's a silver
Yeah.
beverage cooler kind of thing.
No,
No, the
Oh,
containers
the containers. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Those have like a purple locking
cover.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's Circle Week now again because they're competing with Amazon. That some of
Mm.
that plastic stuff I think is 20 or so % off this
Ooh,
week.
that's
Yeah,
a good
I could be
find.
wrong. It might be specific brand, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like, and if you do get the
Yeah.
link up there before us, now's the time because I think they're only doing it for a handful of days.
Yeah. Yeah. I've switched a lot of like my food containers for the Hognose to that Target brand because they come in just the right perfect size
Right,
of
the
everything.
height, yeah,
With that.
and the
And
security. You
mhm.
get instead of just like a food container that's just like, I mean, you've got this right there. That at least the snap lid without a clip is not always comforting.
Mhm. Let me see. I bring it up right now. See if it's the same.
And he's got really great, I think you have like remote sensors. So like if we do go out of town, this is for any incubator, any freezer, anything that we have that's electronic. We try to like monitor it so we can be gone remotely, and get notifications on both of our devices so that we can have a neighbor go over, or,
Mhm.
if my mom's here watching everything, we can send them on in and just, try to restart something or, fix a setting that we talk them through. So it's one of our little safety nets that we try to do if we leave town with animals or a fresh box or fresh freezer full of mice. Oh my gosh. Didn't we have that happen recently? That was, oh my God, a hurricane? What was it?
Something tripped a breaker and the freezer was out for a while. We didn't realize it.
Fresh order of rats.
And hold on. So you guys used the brumation fridge, probably the same thing we use here. And then what do you control the temperature with? Are you doing just the fridge's thermostat, or are you doing something external?
No, it's an external beverage thermostat as well that we
Okay.
use. Usually
Okay.
do like somewhere in the 52 to 54 degree range is
Mhm.
where it fluctuates, and that's worked well for us.
Hmm. That's good. So this here, is it this brand? This
No, but those are
no,
cool too. Yeah.
yeah.
Those
So
are-
I went over
I
to
like that you're
these.
it's a 3-pack. I'm a little jealous you're saving money, but
Yes,
yeah, it's a I'll have him show you. It's
yeah.
I think they're even more narrow than that.
They're more
But those are
narrow than this.
nice.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think.
these are really
Yeah.
cool. So
They
I
can
went
hold a
over to the
girl. They can, right? The
yes,
one that got you can hold
Yeah,
a
they can.
big
Yeah,
girl.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those I went over to that brand, and they're great. And you guys, they're 3-pack for very affordable price. And I think there's two different sizes. There's that medium and then the larger one for the females. Because the females, I think it's like a gallon
Okay.
size container.
Because I'm wondering if you
Um,
could switch to something like that for some of your humid hides rather than
yes, I use it.
rather than the red lid version. Because I feel like
Yeah,
the red
actually,
lids are so expensive because you can't buy them
yes,
in multi-packs. So are the large
yes.
ones also in multi-packs that you have?
I actually have lay boxes here. So this is
Yeah.
I use it the same size for brumation and lay boxes.
Okay.
And stuff
Yeah,
same brand.
I feel like the red container, what is that, like Rubbermaid or something?
Mhm.
And they're almost like brittle at some point too, where
Mhm.
like the plastic just feels like it's gonna like a corner's gonna crack or something.
Yeah.
When he's cleaning or after a couple seasons of use.
Yeah. And I like those too, especially for laying boxes, just because the lid is great, but it's still see-through.
Yeah.
So it's easy to
Oh
see it
yeah,
and stuff like
coming in
that.
with like a flashlight with a red lid, you
Yeah,
can't do
try
crap.
to
Yeah,
yeah.
that's another one of like the I tell you what. Also, we have this like running joke that every season it's either we're out of town together when we get a first clutch hatching, or he's
Mhm.
just gone, and
Yeah.
I hate it because
Yeah, I made her pull some Crebo eggs
I
last
was
year.
pissed, and I'm like, you don't
It's
even
like
know how to do this, and like we've never had a clutch. I mean, not that like I can't handle it, it's just one of
yeah.
those like we haven't had our protocol developed, like
Yes.
we
Yeah.
haven't figured out the ins and outs of what we really wanted to do. And I remember I was so proud of how I configured that clutch when it first, like, again, he's freaking out of town. I'm like, look what I did. And so like I'm sharing like how I laid out these eggs in the box for incubation, and like I think you started sharing it. And so all your buddies were like complimenting my straw placements. And I was like, yeah.
Very precise.
Yeah, it's like he wouldn't have done as
Yeah.
good of a job, kind of thing. And whatever. And those
That's
eggs are
funny.
super cool. They're actually textured. They're like
Mm.
literally they feel like Velcro. It's really neat.
That's cool. That's
But yeah,
cool.
that pissed me. It's every year he's out of town. It just so happened that last year was when we had a new species lay for the first time ever, and I was livid. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was so angry.
Yeah.
So angry.
And that's travel, right? We've talked about that. And do you guys travel for shows? You guys do Daytona, right?
Well, we haven't been to Daytona. We still go there,
Okay.
treat it as kind of our reptile getaway. We started
Mhm.
taking our oldest with us the last
Mhm.
couple years. So
Mhm.
that's
I like to have a little too much fun to like really tie myself down, and I don't want to be
Like
alone
that,
when I
yeah.
do it because I don't trust myself. So I can't let him bend right now. But we actually were planning on bending this year, but
This year, yeah.
with timing of everything, with him starting kindergarten and then me being due in August, we're like, yeah, it's not
Mhm.
gonna happen. So
Yeah. Yeah.
next
It's
year
way too
maybe.
much. Yeah.
That's not smart.
How do you guys it's funny because this weekend going to do a show. It was like last minute. I got the call yesterday, and it's and my wife's traveling for work too.
Oh,
So luckily
good luck with that.
the kids are in spring break and stuff. So it's like, all right, let me make this phone call, see about the cat and the dogs. And then luckily I have buddies that are reptile breeders close by. So
nice.
it's like, hey, I have some 2 or 3 females that could be laying during the weekend. Can you stop by Sunday morning and Sunday night,
Yeah.
to check and stuff like that.
Make
But
sure not eating those eggs.
that's the biggest thing, right? Like eating, yeah. Yeah.
At least they
Have
know what
you
to look for.
Yeah, have you guys had experience with females eating their eggs or females eating
Yeah,
males?
I have a couple that when I'm expecting them to lay, I'm checking regularly because
Yeah.
I have a couple of females that will literally eat the eggs as it's coming out.
Like
of
he'll
the
lose sleep. He will literally like lose sleep.
Yeah, I'll
over it.
stay
Like,
up.
Yeah, he'll.
Especially because those are two really cool girls that
Mhm.
But like when you know she is the way she is, like you'll never stop thinking.
Yeah.
You just always tag her ready to
Mhm.
go. But I would feel really bad for someone watching our collection if it was an egg eater about to go. That'd be really rough.
Yeah,
It's a lot of attention.
But at least in my experience, it's just been limited. Like those particular animals, like I just know it's not something that's widespread in the collection. But it's those two girls for whatever reason. they
So,
do
so
it.
in your experience, if they're egg eaters, they're gonna usually do it.
I've definitely caught those two
Yeah.
multiple times.
Oh,
It's
man.
weird. Some animals just do. It's such a weird thing. Like dogs. Like I've heard that if a dog eats rocks as a puppy, it's always gonna eat rocks. Kind of
That's
thing.
crazy. Yeah.
Like what? Like okay.
Yeah. Last year I had for the first time a female like eat her egg, and it was I know she was laying, came back, double checked, and as I'm opening the tub, she's like slowly opening her mouth and like and I didn't get the egg in time, so she pierced it with her fang.
Yep.
I go, man,
Haven't
so this
you
year,
doctored something? You've doctored something.
that
No.
was a ball python egg.
Ball python.
Okay, I remember you doctored something.
I don't
at one
think
point.
there's much doctoring to a hognose.
To a
Yeah, those are
hognose,
taught too. Yeah.
yeah. So like this year, I was on top of it. I was like, all right,
She'll
you're
do it.
laying. How many
Yeah.
more eggs? Let me go double check. Luckily, no eggs eaten this year so far. Knock on wood.
Like I'm like, I don't care how much I stress you out. I'm going to watch you. Like
It is a hard.
Get that flashlight on her.
It is a hard balance though, because I do worry about disturbing them and egg binding and that, because you don't want to disturb them at the same time. Like if
she chose this life.
But
though.
we've
Like,
tried.
She chose this so this is what she's gonna get. Luckily, he's also got these. What are you calling this? The clear stuff. So like we can see really easily.
Okay.
And I've tried big, like practically thinking about it. Like I don't know if a bigger lay box is better, and then they're not as in close proximity with the eggs, maybe, or a tighter lay box to keep their face away.
Maybe she's laying with her head out the box or something. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the strategy?
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that. Last year, I went and switched everything to like cocoa core and sand, like the full year. Just did the bin from out of formation into it, and they eat their eggs.
Yeah.
If there's too much space, they eat their eggs.
Yeah.
And it's funny because me and Eslin did it around the same time, and that day that female was laying, I get a phone call from him. Eslin figures out a fire hall. He goes, "Hey, put lay bids in because they're eating their eggs."
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, I ran in here and checked, and she was eating her egg.
Oh, maybe we should look for more again, like something a little less with height. I don't know. It's just so again. Luckily, it's just those two girls, but still,
It's just two, yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean it can't happen with another, and they get a
yeah. We also have first years
Yeah.
or something like that coming up. We don't know their personalities yet.
Yeah. And what are you guys? What size type of rack are you guys keeping your hognose in?
So it's a 55 series ARS.
Okay.
So we have the clear
Mhm.
tubs with that for our adults. And then the adult males, are actually keeping like a PVC 32 port style rack. So
okay, yeah, those ARS are like on the list when they're cool. I love to see them. Those tubs or the polycarbonate are amazing.
I mean, again, it makes it easy to check all the things.
Yes.
See the poops, see the lay box as well. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
And
do you guys have them with the cup holder or without?
With the cup holder,
yeah.
Okay. So you recommend cup holders, or do you have?
I do, just because of how much they push around. Like
they're just such rooters and cruisers. It just makes your life easier. He's tried a few different configurations for cup holders over the years before he got this configuration we're in now, and even like a large piece of PVC holding the deli cup, and I mean it's just not.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, because they still push it around and everything. You okay, I'm gonna put it right here, but the next day it's like either here or in the front of the tub
with bedding on it.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah, for sure. With your breeding season coming up, you guys said your storm cloud condas, right?
Yeah.
You have any permafrost stuff going this year, or still growing up?
Still growing up. Next year, hopefully, we can produce some
Okay.
animals there. So we do have a blue permafrost from Kevin Rhodes, a male,
Okay. Mhm.
and then some het girls for that project that are growing up.
Cool.
So hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully next year some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Then doing more Raging Red stuff. I'll produce my first Lemon Ghost Woma
Nice.
baby this year. So looking forward to that as well.
Nice.
More
Okay.
coral stuff. Like I've spent some time on the coral project, getting like some purple extreme red line animals into that stuff.
Mhm.
Multi-generational animals that I produce from Jeff's stuff.
Mhm.
And I got some animals from Eslin as
Mhm.
well for the coral project. They were already from purple line stock too. So
Nice. Yeah, this year he produced Purple Line Coral Superconda, I think.
yeah,
And that thing in person, it is insane. Like that years of putting Purple Line to that project makes the difference.
yeah.
You know, it's really, really, really nice. Yeah, same thing. I have some of that Purple Line lineage from him as well. And I think this year that female that's strong Purple Line will be laying that hopefully get some corals out of there
Nice.
and get some stuff. Let's say with adding any new genes coming up, adding anything.
Wait, what have you talked about?
Good question. I mean, we have some chocolate stuff growing
Okay.
out. We have produced our first leucistics last year. As a project again, we bought just possible hets early on because I'm not
Mhm.
gonna invest a fortune to
Yeah.
make more white snakes, but I think they're really beautiful hognoses. Of course, I want to make them.
It's just sort of, again, like those like little internal goals. It doesn't mean that we were like trying to, beat the gun to produce leucistic for some reason or one or the other. It's just sort of like, let's just do it if we hit these hets. It's sort of like Josh is those guy. He loves like auctions and scratch off lottery ticket, like anything that's kind of like, let's throw the thrill in, like
Yeah.
just to do it. And I'm very like, it has to have a plan. Like
Yeah. It's a balance, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. You know, and I totally understand the Lucy thing as well. It's like, another white snake, right? It's a beautiful snake, but to be able to go and especially let's say what 5-6 years ago to be able to buy a visual, it's a
Yeah.
big investment to produce. And it to me, I hate to say it like dead end project because you still produced animals with it, but
Right.
there is no combo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
you
how
can
he sees
do
it.
the albino, you can do the super arctic with the eyes, and I've heard I don't have much experience of like seeing the super arctic Lucy's and regular Lucy's compared
Yeah.
on how they develop over age. But is it a big enough difference to go that route?
But I mean,
Right.
again, it's just like what we said. Like maybe they're doing it just because it's like I have that little internal goal of
Mm-hmm.
seeing how long it might take me, or how
Mm-hmm.
many times I could hit it. It's just cool to see if you can get it or not.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Maybe
For
not
sure.
to maybe not to get that X $1,000 price tag, but it's just more of like, can I do this? Because I
Yeah.
think it's fun.
Yeah. And with the Swiss, do you guys have in mind what route you guys want to go with?
So my ties are another one of my like favorite
Mhm.
combos just for the variability. So I do have
Mhm.
a toffee het Swiss female growing up.
Okay.
So definitely going to go that route. Not sure what else yet because I do. Yeah, I mean, I think Sable has shown us kind of the spectrum of flavor you're going to get even
Yeah.
with the chocolate.
Yeah.
Obviously different genes, but I think I think you kind of know what flavors
There's
you're gonna.
similarities. Yeah, for
Yeah, there's
sure.
similarities, so you kind of know what you're going to get. So that's another project I'm not rushing to throw to every project and combo that I have, but I do like it, and so we're growing up some
Mhm.
animals for it.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I saw the visual, I think in Dallas at Herpen Harbin's table. And it's a cool, the toffee Swiss. It's a nice looking animal. I like
Yeah.
it. But yeah, Mai Tais are beautiful. And it's interesting because now you say you enjoy Mai Tais, right? Do you like Arctic Mai Tais or would you prefer just a regular Mai Tai?
Yeah, just a regular high quality Mai Tai, I
Right,
think.
yeah, I
I think
agree on that.
Arctic does a lot for like lighter combo. Like I think
Yes.
toffee lavenders, for example. I think adding
Mhm.
that contrast with Arctic will help
Mhm.
that combo, but it's definitely not going to help every
Mhm.
combo. Same with sunburst to me. I prefer a nice high quality sunburst to most Arctic sunbursts that I've seen.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Again, another example of like just adding more genes on top for the sake
Mm-hmm.
of it, or for seeing what it does. I guess we got to do it eventually to see
yeah,
if it if it actually does something to it. But yeah, I agree. A nice like purple line or extreme red lineage sunburst, it's amazing. I had to see that in person. And then when you add Arctic, it does wash it out a little bit on Mai Tais and sunburst.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you said, because like I bred Arctic into my Mai Tai project, and
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Seeing what Arctic, what Mai Tai, and I think it was before I saw Arctic Mai Tais, and really sat down and looked at them. Now I think it's like, do I want to breed for more Mai Tais, or do I go super Arctic Sables and go that route, right?
But it's still nice to have that variety if it's there, right? Because just because that
Mhm.
doesn't catch our eye as much doesn't mean it
So
doesn't
somebody
someone
else.
else. Maybe they like that.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
For you. Again,
Um,
it's for you. So
yeah,
whatever you
yeah,
like.
yeah. And like you said, you don't know who's coming to your table, who's looking at your morph market, might
Yeah.
have a different, like than you do, and might like the more pastel, lighter looking
Yeah.
animals.
yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And with the toffee lavender, because that's another, I think, great combo.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been into that project now?
A couple seasons I've produced. So I
Okay.
have a visual toffee lavender male that I got, I guess 3 years ago maybe.
Mhm.
And then yeah, just paired him to some stuff to make hats.
Nice.
And then have grown some females up that are now like toffee het lavenders. So
Mhm.
should produce some more visual combos with Conda in the mix this year, Arctic in the mix,
Yeah. I think
and then
I
growing
took a
out
picture.
the sable stuff, the,
Yeah.
the sable to go with the toffee lavender.
Yeah.
So,
So you have corals and you have toffee lavenders.
yeah.
Which one? If you had to choose
I
one.
like
It's
them both.
coral,
I,
right?
I like them both. For like corals to me get a little more iridescence. Like there's a little
Mhm.
bit of difference there, where it's like a more muted kind of pastelly look to
Mhm.
the toffee lavender. So I
Mhm.
like them both for what they are, for
Yeah.
sure.
But that
Yeah.
was one of them, right?
That's the coral stuff.
Yeah. That's what was super nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the corals are definitely showstoppers. If you have those on the table and people stop by and just oogle at it, and it's like, okay, what is that? What do you created here, right?
Yeah,
And like you're saying, the lavender toffees do have that nice crisp pastel color. They are very, very nice. Yeah, I also have some animals in that project that hoping to create the visual here in a couple years.
yeah.
But great projects. Before we close out, any other projects you guys have in mind or anything you're working towards?
I think we've covered a lot of it. Again, really refining the coral stuff is something that
Hmm.
I'm excited about. Working the Raging Red into a lot of our existing projects,
Hmm.
sunburst stuff, albino stuff. Same with Lemon Ghost. Just trying to work that. I have a high percentage Lemon Ghost toffee girl who's really just really striking, that I paired to a Lemon Ghost Woma this year to make some het toffees from that.
Nice.
So it'd be cool to see how yellow you can make those toffees. I'll have to share a picture of her
Yeah.
at some point, but she's a really cool girl.
That's cool. That's cool to see that toffee in there. And then like thinking about down the line, right? Do you want to add? You got
Yeah,
sable into it, all that stuff,
yeah,
and see how bright you can get those, especially those mai tais.
yeah.
That's cool. That's a cool project there. Um, you know, what else I was gonna ask with your processes and stuff that you guys have, either with the ball pythons, hognose, is there anything you guys think that's unique to something you guys do, or maybe a little different from most?
Like
Either
uniquely.
breeding or feeding, keeping, and that stuff.
Sometimes we know a little too much on the
Uh,
animal.
No, I mean, I think the uniqueness, I guess, for us is the diversity of different animals that we keep. I mean, I feel like, we take the time to be knowledgeable about all the species that we keep. So if we're
Mhm,
reproducing babies, like we've not sold these to anyone until we have raised these babies up to,
Yeah.
mhm.
to a stage where we feel good about, what they're doing. So
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's
Um,
important.
Forming
Yeah.
relationships with the people usually too is, I guess, the biggest thing, because I mean he finds so much. I mean, I think we both find enjoyment in like making the relationships live with folks, but he also finds a lot of enjoyment, just communicating with folks, with messaging and things like that, just to
Mhm.
share those common interests, not only at a face-to-face interaction, but just people seeing something that they liked on social media or something that they have a question about on Morph Market, all the way to I met you at a show, but I really want to keep talking with you. Like, it's just, he loves the engagement, and building relationship with people. I think that's something that he is special.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily with like a process or something like that, but I mean, I feel like I've kind of hinted at throughout the conversation, is that he is the king of refinement and figuring out what works best, and tinkering with things until he gets something that he likes, whether or
Yeah.
not it makes sense to me or not. But just finding what works best, because I think there's like lines between efficiency and maintaining the utmost health, and care of your animals,
Mhm.
but also still, when you come down here and you only have a few hours, like, so there's all these little pieces and aspects of care that you want to hone in on and make it work the best you can, and taking pride in it and making yourself happy doing it.
Yeah. 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 And making healthy, good animals available for customers, and for the longevity of it, right? I think
Yeah.
that's and the main thing is we're the animals, right? If we're doing it, we have to figure out how we're going to keep it healthy, how to keep them going, right? Um, and what's your next show if anybody's looking to meet you guys in person and stuff like that? What will be
Yeah,
your next show?
so expecting the third child. So we're not doing a ton of shows this
Okay.
year. I know we'll
Okay.
do.
Slowing it down.
I know
Everything will be on Morph Market.
we'll be updating more of Mark. I know we'll do. We're gonna try to do before the baby come Bob Boo's Southeast
Oh
Reptile
yeah,
Expo
Mhm.
Southeast is in
here in
August,
Atlanta. So
right? Yeah.
right now that's early August. So we'll definitely be there unless the baby comes early.
Mhm.
So that'll be the one show that's on the calendar for now, and then yeah, we'll see
Okay.
what pops up for now. We've been trying to branch out and do some of the All American
Mhm.
reptile expos, but it just hasn't worked out
But I mean, you're
schedule wise.
you're open to doing like other NRBs and stuff like that in other states. It's just whether or not both of our weekend schedules allow it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also travel a
Yeah.
lot for other hobbies, so it's hard to compromise whenever he can go and do other things too, or if what we have available, is it really worth driving 10 hours kind of thing to
Mhm.
before we make the commitment. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
luckily we have some really awesome local stuff, and we can be conservative with our time. So
Yeah, now that the Bob's Booth show is there now, I've heard great things about the second show that he put on. So that's interesting. And right there, what is it? Probably you guys 45 minutes to an hour from where
if with the new location,
new
it's actually only
location?
about 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh
about
wow,
25.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, having a show like that, and seeing what the future can hold that in your backyard is
Yeah.
a big plus. Big
Yeah.
plus. Thank you again before we close out tonight. Thank you again for your time.
Of course.
Any
Thanks for setting
last
this up.
any last words you guys want to give to the viewers? Any last tips?
Just ping Josh if anyone wants to
Yeah.
chat, talk snakes, or come meet us and greet us and hang out. If you see us at a show, or I mean, we're always happy to talk and engage with folks, just
Yeah.
for fun. So
Yeah. They're great. I think that's the biggest thing too, like actually being able to sit there and have the conversations. My girls and my wife always tell me, she goes, I've never seen you talk so long to somebody like you do to your reptile buddies. That's like, I guess they're my people,
yeah.
they really talk about what I want to talk about.
Yeah, we have other things we like too, like
Yeah.
fishing and dogs and whatever. But still, yeah, it's fun to engage in
Mhm.
all the snake things and all the tortoise things and all the gecko things and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It can definitely jump into a lot of different rabbit holes once you get into the animal world.
yeah.
But yeah. So guys, viewers, their Morph Market or Instagram or both are in the description below. So if you guys want to go follow them, check out what they're working on, make sure to do that as well, and subscribe and like the channel. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the next episode, and it'll be a good night for us tonight. Thank you everybody for joining in.
Thank you.